Are you ready for deeper meaning and bigger dreams in your life? Do you believe it can happen? Amy and LoriAnn are here to clear the confusion and help you live life full out, guided by your inner wisdom to create, amplify, and align you with your highest self. Are you ready to attract a divinely blessed life? This is Living in the Faith Frequency.
Welcome to the Faith Frequency podcast with LoriAnn Garner and Amy Anfinson. We're excited to have you guys here with us today. And our topic today, we're just going to dive right in. We want to go deep this week into finances. And this has been my question for Amy on how she has been able to go from having somebody that was helping so much with the finances, and you had shared responsibilities, and then all of a sudden everything's on you. So can you just tell us and share with us kind of your process that you went through going from, that extreme of not really having to do much, and then now all of it is on you?
Yes. So I'm going to start with the mindset piece because it was such a big shift. I knew that I had to get myself mentally and emotionally prepared to do the things that I've not wanted to do. And I'll just be honest, I didn't want to do all of the finances. I didn't want to have to keep track of all the passwords. It was very overwhelming. There was a lot of things I didn't want to do. And John was always so great to, well, okay, I can do that. And he could look at numbers and he didn't get stressed, and he just kind of had a roundabout, approach. And so I want to say, there was a buildup of being willing to face the finances. And, and I've got some clients that we've had these conversations, like they don't really like to look at what's in their bank account because it stresses them out. And we don't like to feel that feeling of stress. So what I'm going to say is find the right support first. Like if you're too afraid to look at your numbers, you're too afraid to, or you're confused, you don't know where to dive in, you need to make changes, and it's just overwhelming, get the right support. I was very fortunate. I had a client from years back. I knew she was very system oriented, and she always thought with the end result and worked backwards. And I saw these gifts in her, and her family came from a big family that had a lot of things going on, and they never really saw her gifts, but I did. And so years later, I'm like, hey, can I hire you to help me with some systems? And so she's been in my life, and we were working together just before we found out about John's tumor. I knew there was something going on, and I said to her, I have got to get passwords to our bank accounts. And John had 4 pages, front and back, of papers, and they were written this way, and they were written this way, and they were written this way. And it was 4 pages of passwords. Wow. And it was so overwhelming. So I had her sit with me, and, how we started with, you have to start with where you're at. Yeah. And so for me, it was I used an index card and accounts that I needed to look at on a daily basis, or not a daily basis, but a weekly or monthly basis. I created an index file of all things. And it was a process to not jump so far forward in my mind that I needed to have everything in place where I could feel good about it. I knew that I would not feel good about the situation for a while, but I would show up and I would keep working on the system. And I know myself, so I scheduled appointments to work with her And we just kept creating these systems so I could get all of the passwords, and then created a spreadsheet so that I could look at all of my bank accounts and know where the money was, any type of credit cards, liabilities that needed to go out. And then I could keep a running total of my cash on hand buffer and any type of investment. So I have a spreadsheet that I use that I look at every week, and I do totals. So nothing ever gets out of hand. And I open up my bank accounts. And so I got them all saved, so it's easy to access on my computer. And I will go through my bank accounts and look at the charges. And anything that doesn't look right, like I came across just this last week, I saw something that came through. Also I get notifications on my phone. So if there's charges, that has come in very handy. So I've been able to catch things sooner. So, but just this last week, I came across a charge that came through like $659 through a credit card, and it was through my husband's email. So I had to keep track of those kind of things, but it was a charge that I didn't need anymore. And it was going to his account. So I had to call, and it was a process because I wasn't even on the account. Like, it was for my business and I wasn't even on the account. So there's been many things that I've had to work through, but I actually just got it resolved today. I just kept putting it on my to-do list. So I also have a to-do list for finances that I keep track of. And, you just keep plugging away. You keep showing up every week. What's priority, what needs to be done, and no, you'll never get it all done. There's always going to be a list. But if you just keep working towards it, you find yourself creating these systems, and you feel more confident because I know exactly how much is in my bank accounts, how much is going out, and what my buffer on hand is. And because I'm looking at it every week, my stress level is not as high because I'm looking at it. And our
Brilliant. That
yeah.
is so brilliant. I just have to say right there, in setting up those systems and then getting the alerts, and I just put this like in what you're describing is called the Einstein box, and it's a matrix system. Not even that you knew that you were doing this, but I just actually put this graph in my book for teenagers to be able to keep track of what is the most important thing right now, what can you delegate, what can you get help with, what can you put off till next week. And so it's brilliant what you're describing right now and that you put into place. And I feel like it goes along with your faith frequency because you have been having so much faith that you just show up, you put these things on your to-do list, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's never going to be done. You're giving all of our listeners such great like steps and things that they can do to work through this. So I know I interrupted you, so keep on going. But
I love the thought of being able to share this with teenagers, young adults, because the one thing that I mean, I won't get on the show today about my past history, but my parents were bankers, and the financial things that I have gone through in my entire life have been very extreme, from one extreme to the other. And I just feel like the young kids are not taught how to manage their money. And sometimes we're up in our adult ages before we learn to do that. And or if we're married to somebody and they handle the finances and you have no idea. Like I used to do, QuickBooks years ago in my other marriage, and then let those go. And then I had no clue how much money we were making, how much was going out, like no clue. And then with my married to John, I let him do all of the finances. So I literally did not know until we had to get to a place where I have got to know what's going on so I can manage my spending. So I can manage, like we want to just say yes to all the things we like, but if we can have some discipline, um, but make room for some fun. I'm all about fun and enjoying life, but how do you have both? And so it's been quite the journey, which we can talk on another podcast about all of that. But where we're at right now, it's like learning to have systems, being willing to ask for help and not be embarrassed. I will tell you, I was embarrassed for so many years that I didn't have a better handle on my finances. And I couldn't even talk to my parents about it. They were bankers, and I was too embarrassed to talk to my parents, who taught me how to have a checking account at the age of probably 12 and how to balance it. And so, it's like I was too embarrassed to even talk to my parents. And plus, we kind of have different views on things. And I didn't want to, I didn't want to face it. So it took me many years, but when I did finally face the fear, and what we're afraid of is so much more worse in our mind. But then when we finally face it and we look at it, we no longer have fear. And now we feel like we become empowered. And as long as we don't beat ourselves up and we don't stay in guilt or embarrassment, but instead we acknowledge that we are doing something about it, and we'll keep doing something about it until we get to a place where we feel confident. And that is life with anything, honestly. So
Right.
learning how that inner dialogue, where you're not beating yourself up and you're willing to ask for help, it's so important. But it was, I had to just make a decision. And for me, I was in a place that my other option was complete failure, and that's just not an option. I I mean, I just had to say, Amy, you're going to do this. You will do this. You can ask for help. You'll figure it out. Give yourself plenty of time and space. Um, the systems will come. And then I just kept refining, we create a system, and then I also had to create systems that worked with my mind. And if you can find someone that you can talk it out. I had to speak up for myself. I'm like, okay, that doesn't work for me. This is what I need. And so the person that I have helping me, we communicate a lot. And that has been huge because she's there to help and I want help. So how do we keep letting that happen? And I really shared a lot of appreciation with her. So whenever you get triggered, instead of getting mad at yourself or them, you just want to keep acknowledging yourself, acknowledging your support person, and just knowing you'll find your way, having faith that you will find your way. And so yes, it is about the faith frequency. It is about believing that you will get there and letting go of the timeline, but just keep showing up and having a picture of feeling confident that you can look at your finances, you can face them, and you can make good decisions that help your assets grow. And so for me, I'm going to throw another piece in. I have been opening my mind to learning about just investing. And, you have to think from a different sphere, if you will. And so I've been listening to some different books about, well, and a classic one is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that book really helps you, it was about someone who had a poor dad, middle class, blue collar, and then a rich dad. And he just processed differently. And so this guy, he's looking at both of these dads that he had, and he got very confused about, well, which dad's right? One of them thinks in middle class, and the stories behind in the book are really great too, because it's about recognizing that the wealthier people educate themselves. They learn how to not have to pay as many taxes. So you save money by not having to pay taxes when you get things set up properly. And those that don't educate themselves just keep living in the same paradigm, right?
Right.
So I've had to really open myself to say I'm willing to learn, and I don't have to figure it all out right now, but I just want to spend a little bit of time each week listening to books that expand my mind and help me to learn about how I can invest my money, how to, number one, monitor my money, how to manage my money, and how to multiply my money. Those are my goals. And
I love that. If you just even wrote down those things that Amy just said and put that on your to-do list every day, it will show up. I mean, all of the people that need to help you will show up in your life. All of the things, maybe the tools, whatever it is, it will show up just because you stated it with so much power and emotion and not coming from the victim mode. That's what I heard when you just stated that.
yeah,
I love that.
yeah. And I think I love what you said, not being a victim. So there's no blame, right? So there's no
Right.
blame to yourself, to your partner, to your parents, to whoever. Like there's no blame. There's
Right.
just making a decision about what you want in your life. And for me, that's the one thing I really work on is not feeling like a victim, but saying, okay, this is where I want to go. What do I need to do to get there? We don't have to create any stories, no blame, just keep pointing in that direction. I say, lean in the direction that you want to go. Nothing happens overnight, but if you keep leaning, write something down, keep it in front of you, remind yourself, but don't beat yourself up when you don't have the energy or the bandwidth, whatever you got going on. But just whenever, just know that it's like a wave coming. The surfers are like waiting for the great wave so they can ride it. And sometimes it's like the wave's coming. Like if you just tell yourself, I know I'm going to have capacity to do this, and I'm going to keep it in front of me, and I'm going to set the intention and get myself mentally prepared to do this thing that I'm going to do. And then schedule it. So I schedule things in my calendar so that I make sure that I get it done. And I schedule with somebody so we can work on my systems.
Mm.
And I just know myself. So I can get distracted pretty easily. And so accountability, I love accountability and the support. And I like having another person there for me to talk things through to create the systems for me, because sometimes it just gets really overwhelming. So, and if you don't have someone, then let that be your intention, that you find the right people. I was even talking about my kids the other day when they were little. I remember just saying prayers of like, God, just bring the right people to my kids, right friends, right mentors. Like it doesn't have to be me, because sometimes our kids don't like to listen to the parents.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't have to be the one that teaches them all these things. I'm getting all these epiphanies, I'm learning, but I don't have to teach it all to my kids, but I just please bring the right people to my kids. And that's what's happened in my life. I mean, I'm just so pleased with the people that they have in their life that have helped them, are helping them find their way, because there's no destination, there's no arrival, there's just opening your heart to get into that frequency of faith, knowing things will work out for you, finding your way. And you just do that every day. But it's the energy state that we're operating in that matters the most. And so ask for the right help.
Brilliant. Like, I love that when you were just saying with your kids and what you pray for, that that's powerful, because everything that's coming out of our mouth, we're creating. And our brain doesn't know any different. Our brain doesn't know if we're joking. It doesn't know if we're being mean, nice, whatever. It just knows that what you're saying is the truth, because that's what your brain hears. So when you start talking about your finances and you start saying you're poor and you can't afford things and you don't know how to do this, but everything that I've heard from you saying today is you just are taking that next step. And when I was looking down, I was writing notes, because it's like finding the right support, start where you are, get an index card and write things down there and create an index file. And you can do passwords, you can do bank accounts, you can do everything. You just keep this index card file, create systems for everything, look at your spreadsheet every week, and set up notifications for bank accounts so that you know when anything's getting charged or spent or going through your account, and read great books. And you had mentioned Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I'll tell you, the book that I listen to all the time is called Happy Money. I love it. It's by Ken Honda. And that is one of my all-time favorite books that I go to, that I listen, so that I can get my mindset wrapped back around the happy money. And it truly does bring wealth when you start switching your mindset around the money. So I'm so glad that you started with that. Okay, is there like some last thoughts that you want to leave our listeners with around, this process that you've gone through and how you've kept your great, optimistic, faithful attitude around everything?
Well, I think the most important thing is our inner self-talk and giving yourself acknowledgments for just showing up and willing to want to learn. The willingness is so important. So if you can just acknowledge yourself, even if you're here listening to this podcast, acknowledging that if you're listening, you have a desire to learn something. You have a desire to operate in a frequency of faith. So give yourself credit. Even listening, what we've talked about can elevate your vibration and give you inspiration and give you hope, and keep feeding your mind with things that lift you up, not make you feel bad. So as you do that, you'll get better and better and stronger and clearer on what you are requesting and asking for. And when you ask without resistance, it is given. So keep asking, giving it space, and know that it's going to come in. So that is the faith frequency.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for being here today and for going on this deep dive with us into finances. And we've just barely touched the surface today, but hopefully you can apply any one of these things to take the next step. And we're encouraging you to do that. So thanks, Amy, for being here today and talking about your journey and how hard that was. And I love your honesty and your vulnerability in sharing the things, that you're putting in place and the people that you're talking to, and continuing on this journey of how you manage your finances, how you manage your mindset. All of those things are so important, and we are happy that you can share that with us.
Well, thank you, LoriAnn, for being here. You always ask wonderful questions and, really try to serve our listeners. So I really appreciate our co-creative dance that we do.
I love it too. So thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Living in the Faith Frequency. Keep shining, keep aligning, and keep trusting your inner guidance as you live your life full out. We are here to guide you as you step confidently into your faith journey. Be sure to subscribe and stay connected. Check out the show notes and let us know what topics would you like to hear next. On behalf of Amy and LoriAnn, we want you to keep talking, keep dreaming, and keep feeling blessed.